Okay. Today we are ancillary areas, but normally they will test you on these headings. If you go through the past papers, right, you can see there are so many questions on uh, the areas what I'm trying to cover today. I'll try to cover everything today, but uh, if not, we will continue for next week. Another area which we want to discuss under international trade is counter trade. What is counter trade? Right? Now, counter trade, what is counter trade? Now, counter trade means exchanging goods or services which are paid for in whole or part with other goods or services rather than with money. We know certain countries, especially the African countries, are there. They don't have convertible currencies. So instead of, if they import something, some goods into the country, since they don't have convertible currencies, what they do is, but they want to import goods also. So they import it and they settle the payments by way of other goods or services, not by money. Got it? Right. The common characteristics of counter trade arrangements is that export sales to a particular market are made conditional upon undertaking to accept imports from that market. Now, it is a very special thing on counter trade. Now, for example, when they import certain things, they make it a point that the importer has to accept their exports. Otherwise, there won't be any way for them to settle the payments. Right? So this is the way they do the payments. We call it counter trade. Now, why do countries wish to do counter trade? I don't think in Sri Lanka you have that much of experience, right? The main reasons for counter trade is some countries lack commercial credit or convertible foreign currency to pay for imports, and therefore counter trade is needed to finance imports. Otherwise, they won't be able to import the goods. So this is one of the options those countries are having. Some developing countries use counter trade to boost their developing manufacturing industries, which will enable them to export more goods by means of counter trade arrangements. They make anipataman where what the developing countries are doing, right? They use counter trade to boost their developing manufacturing industries. So when they have the developing countries, when they have uh, excess goods for exports, right? Then they'll make it a point to those people, okay, they import certain things from these African countries, right? Mainly what they are importing is African countries are very famous for uh, certain items, certain goods, right, which are needed for manufacturing of warheads and all, right? Titanium, zinc, titanium, some precise and precious precious material, right? And those are only uh, you can found those things in those countries, African countries, right? So the developing countries, what they do is They import those things from African countries, and then they send their excess exports. Whether the African countries need it or not, they settle. Because today I'm doing the session from home, and we got a power failure. You can hear me, no? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, fine. I'm so sorry for the issue. Nothing to worry, even after 3 o'clock, I will continue this. Right. Uh, we were talking about the reasons for counter trade, right? And we talked that some countries lack commercial credit or convertible foreign currency to pay for imports, and therefore counter trade is needed to finance the imports, right? And we also said some developing countries, they are trying to push whatever their excess exports also to those underdeveloped countries, and they import whatever the items they need from those poor countries, and they uh, try to give them whatever the excess exports they are having, right? So some countries use counter trade as an instrument of their political and economic policies, right? Especially the countries like America, uh, France, and some of the European countries, Norway and all. I mean, they use this counter trade as an instrument of their political and economic policies. Even British people, right? In a buyer's market, to obtain more trade or to obtain uh, more trade or to obtain new technology from another country. Okay, we'll try to understand this financial counter trade with a small example, right? We'll take an example of, we'll take this particular problem. The UK exporter, the UK exporter sells capital goods to a less developed country, LDC country. LDC country can a less developed country, right? So UK exporter sells capital goods to a less developed country. Payment due to LDC government restrictions on exchange control that prevents the UK exporter from converting the LDC currency into sterling. Now, because of the now when the UK exporter sells capital goods to a less developed country, they have to get the money from the less developed country. Now, even in Sri Lanka, we know that our LCs or collection items are in dollars. So we convert Sri Lanka rupees into dollars, and then only we will pay, right? But due to the restrictions on exchange control in those countries, LDC countries, that prevents the UK exporter from converting the LDC currency into sterling. It's not convertible, right? Now, the possible solution is the UK exporter uses LDC currency to buy sugar from an LDC producer, not the one to whom the goods were sold, and sugar disposed by selling to UK buyer for sterling. You got that? Now, this is something like this. The UK exporter, okay, for example, they are selling capital goods. In those countries, for mining industry, they need machinery and other equipments for mining industry, zinc, diamond, then very expensive metal like titanium and all. I mean, you have to do mining to extract those things, right? So those mining, the machinery needed for mining industry, the UK exporter sells to the LDC country. Now the LDC country since they don't have any way of settling the bills, right? What they do is immediately, because now the UK exporter can't wait till they do the mining and collect the material and then sell it to them, right? What they do is, instead of uh, getting those metals, right? They need sugar. The UK people, they need sugar. They use sugar. So in that particular country, the less developed country, not the guy who got the, not the guy who imported the mining machinery, some other guy. They buy from some other guy in the same country the sugar, and that guy will sell the sugar to UK exporter. Right? Now that when that guy sells the sugar, that guy has to be settled now. So the guy who imported the machinery, he will settle the other party, the sugar manufacturer. දැන් තේරෙනවද වෙන හැටි? මේ කියන රෝමක් ඇඳලා ඔයගොල්ලෝ බලන්න ඕන. The instead of settling the UK exporter, that guy, LDC importer, he will settle the money, the exact amount, to the sugar importer. Sugar exporter, ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ රටේමනේ. No issue, same currency. So that guy wants currency, they will settle in LDC currency. And that guy will send the sugar. And the machinery guy, now in UK, the machinery exporter will get sugar as the payment. Then he will sell sugar in the market. Right? හැමතිස්සෙම මෙතන වෙන්නේ අර LDC country එකට පාඩු වෙන්නේ තමයි මේ business එක යන්නේ. For example, අර එන amount එකට එන්නේ sugar 50 tons නම් UK guy will ask for 70 tons. The 70 tons අර මිනිහට ගෙවන්න වෙනවා අර imported. Right? So මෙයා මෙහාට එනකොටම he is not dealing with sugar, but he will sell it to some other wholesale agent in UK. Right? This is how the counter trade operates. Right? Normally, in the industrial counter trade, that is the financial counter trade. Normally in the industrial counter trade, there are 6 types of counter trade. Right? Make up නිතරම වගේ උගන්ට එන questions to explain about 6 types of counter trade. Right? One is offset. Offset means traditionally this has been used by governments around the world when they have made major purchases of military goods or high technology goods, but is becoming increasingly common in other sectors also. The offset එක හරියට වෙනවා. I told you that these military for warheads and all, atomic bombs වලට, planes වලට, planes වල chassis එහෙම හදන්න වෙනම special types of metal they need. Right? Lightweight වෙනම එහෙම. ඒකම warheads වලට ඕන titanium වගේ දේවල්. එතකොට ඔය වගේ ඔක්කොම metals වලට ගියාම what these people do, especially these French, English, American guys, right? Spain වලත් වැඩි වෙනවා, Norway වගේ countries කරනවා. What they will do is they will import those metals, and to offset the transaction, they give them military goods, arms and ammunitions, helicopters, aircrafts, fighter jets, and all those things. Right? The other minister, my countries කිව්වම වඩ ඔළුවට දාගන්න the African countries වල තියෙන issue එකට හේතුව මේකම තමයි. Right? Russians ලාත් ඔය වැඩේ කරනවා. So they said they will send those countries political alliances. So they send the countries these military goods. Now those countries are getting self-sufficient with the military goods now. ඊට පස්සේ මොකද වෙන්නේ? Those foolish guys, normally uneducated, illiterate, you know how these African communities, right? Uneducated guys, their literacy rate is well below the norms, right? Now these people are putting them to fight against their neighboring countries. Rwanda, Uganda, Ethiopia, right? If you go through this, their history, recent histories, I'm not talking about 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, recent histories. These countries are fighting with each other. Now, we know for 30-year internal war, but we had recently, right? How much of money we spent on military goods? Now here, these people are getting, to buy aircrafts, helicopters, ammunitions, right? Guns, billions. Now these people are getting it almost become free wage, because they don't have the they don't know the importance of the metals they are mining. They don't know about it, so they just send it, right? And in return they have got this ammunition, and now they are fighting with each other. වෙන්න මොකද වෙන්නේ? අර මිනිස්සු තව තියෙනවා අපි මේගොල්ලෝ exploit කරනවා, සූරා කාගෙන ඉන්නවා, right? හිතන්න බෑ මේ වගේ දේවල් මේ ලෝකේ තාම වෙනවද කියලා අපි ගොඩක් වෙලාවට දන්නේ නැහැ, right? The second type of counter trade is counter purchase. Counter purchase means the foreign supplier undertakes to purchase goods or services from the purchasing country, the importer, as a condition of securing the order. Counter purchase is generally imposed for two reasons. First, to stimulate exports, and second, in alleviate the balance of payment deficit resulting from imported goods. Now, last week we talked about balance of payment, central bank and all, right? Now, when the imports are going up, if we have more imports, then we have a negative balance of payment situation, right? මෙතන මොකක්ද වෙන්නේ? Hello.
Ashan? ඇයි ඒ? ඒවන්න බලන්න යන චුට්ටක් මෙතන තියන් ඉන්නලා ෂේප් එකේ එවන්න.
Can you mute it, please? Can you mute that? Can you mute your phone? Hello? Can you mute your phone? Hello. Can you mute your phone? That's counter-trade bomb. Right? Right. Then counter purchase is generally imposed for two reasons. First, to stimulate exports, and second, alleviate the balance of payment deficit resulting from imported goods. Once you have imported goods, you have to pay. Then that goes from your foreign exchange reserves. Now here, it will go from as an export. Right? It's balance of payment deficit. Okay. Number 3, tolling. Tolling. In a tolling deal, the supplier himself provides the raw material. For example, steel ingots, and hires capacity of the factory to turn into finished goods. For example, steel tubes. These are then bought by a final, the final customer who pays the supplier in cash. Right? Throughout the process, the supplier retains ownership of the material as it is processed by the factory. In tolling deals, what is happening in supplier himself provides the raw materials like steel ingots. Some people must have seen these steel ingots. In my area, every day it's a normal thing what we are seeing these steel ingots, because I'm staying in Atragiri near the from Steel Corporation. Right? Throughout the night, the loads of steel ingots are being transported to Steel Corporation. Luku yakada kandang wageva. Right? And then they hire the capacity of the factory to turn into finished goods. Right? That means steel tubes. 2 millimeter, 4 millimeter, 6 millimeter, 10 millimeter steel tubes. Right? These are then bought by the final customer who pays the supplier in cash. Right. Throughout the process, the supplier retained ownership of the material as it is processed by the factory. Because some people, they have their own factories also, right? They provide that factories also. And then, or what they will do is they will donate a factory. And then the agreement is, okay, we will give you the raw materials and you convert it into finished goods and give it back to us. Right? And the selling part will be done by the guy who has sent the raw materials. Right? Steel Corporation again, tolling with the Russia factory. Then they set up the factory and everything, and they gave the steel ingots, and the finished goods, they said, okay, you all the finished goods, you can use it for local market requirements, and anything excess, according to some percentages, they said, we will buy. And then those people will sell it. Right? That is tolling. Another thing is a very popular one, is the barter system. The barter system is also comes under counter trade, and it is one of the most common method of counter trade, barter. Right? Loke salli endisla tibunet barter system. This is the same thing. right? In a barter deal, goods are exchanged for goods. Goods are exchanged for goods. The principal export is paid for with goods or services from the importing market. A single contract covers both flows in the simple case. No cash is involved. In barter system, no cash is involved. Do you think this barter system is prevailing in Sri Lanka now? Can somebody add something? Hmm? Do you think we are still having these old barter systems to deal with goods or services? Hello, are you guys there? Are you guys there? Hello, I don't know. I'm just talking. Can somebody give me an answer? Answer again, not for the question. Can you hear me? I need the response only for that.
Yes, sir. Can.
Yes. Can you hear me? Hello? Are you there? You guys? Oh, all vanish. Hmm? Countertrade වෙලාද? ඔගන්ට ඇහෙනවද මාව? මට ඒක විතරක් කියන්න මට ප්‍රශ්න උත්තර එපා.
Yes, sir. Can hear.
can. Okay, fine. Yeah, මට මම දන්නද ඔයගොල්ලෝ කතා කරන්නේ නැහැ නේද? ඒකින්ද that's not a big issue for me, right? But I just want to know whether you are still there or you can hear me. Technical issues will එකපාරට යනවනේ. Right. We were talking about the barter system. Yes, in Sri Lanka, I know there's one group very well known to me. They do business in this barter system, right? And you won't believe. I don't want to name the people because they are some are very famous guys, right? One guy is a very famous wedding photographer, very famous wedding photographer. Right? There's another guy uh, who owns a garage, right? The වගේ තව කට්ටිය ඉන්නවා music groups තියෙන කට්ටිය. ඒ වගේ කට්ටිය ඉන්නවා යාළුවෝ සෙට් එක. ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ business එක යන්නේ barter system එකට. Anybody wants to repair their vehicle, they put the vehicle into the garage. So the garage guy will do the repairs and he will tell you, okay, your damage is 20,000. 20,000 is your damage. Right. Now, the wedding photographer will not pay the 20,000 to that. Instead of that, they'll maintain an account. He owes 20,000 to the garage guy. Right? ඔය වගේ වැඩ කළා. මම දන්නවා හොඳටම මගේ friend who owns a garage, right? Yeah, he's also a very reputed guy, fairly wealthy guy. I know that for his son's wedding, the entire wedding coverage to do the albums and everything, normally, you know, it will cost you 3 lakhs, 3.5 lakhs. Right? අර වගේ සල්ලි එකතු වෙලා අර පුතාගේ wedding එකට එනකොට කෙලින්ම he gave the contract to the wedding photographer. He covered everything. The music part was covered by the guy who owns the music group, right? And ලස්සනට වැඩි ගියා. අරයට සල්ලි ඕනේ නැහැ. අරයා ටික ටික යාගේ ජොබ් එක කර පොඩ හැමදාම රුපියල් 10,000ක් 5,000ක් ගන්න නැතුව අරව සල්ලි එකතු ගියා. ගිහලා බාටර් සිස්ටම් එකට settle. No cash involved. Right? එතකොට තමයි මම දැනගත්ත තාම කට්ටිය සමහර groups එකතුලා කරනවා කියලා. Right. Compensation or buybacks. Compensation or buybacks deals. Buyback is a form of barter that is favored by some Eastern European countries. Suppliers of capital goods agreed to be paid by the future output of the factory. They are supplied. Right? For example, ICI. ICI is a paint manufacturers. ICI could sell a chemical processing plant and take part of the plant's future output of chemicals as payment. Now, ICI, the world famous chemical guys, right? They will set up a chemical processing plant in these Eastern European countries. Eastern European countries are little bit poor countries, right? These poor countries, so their labor is cheap. So they set up the plant, and then whatever those people, their future output of chemicals as payment, they will get all the outputs what they produce as payments, right? So there is compensation or buyback. මේ බලනකොට ඔයගොල්ලන්ට බේම ඇති එකකට යන බොහොම කිට්ටුවෙන් යන්නේ. ඇත්ත. Countertrade, all 6 types are going very closely with the other one, right? Switch or swap trading. Switch or swap trading. Imbalances in long-term bilateral trading agreements sometimes lead to the accumulation of accumulated credit surpluses in one or other country. These surpluses can sometimes be tapped by third countries for financing their exports to that country. Such transactions are known as switch or swap deals because they typically involve switching of the documentation of the goods on the high seas, right? Now, switch or swap trading, okay, if we and India, Sri Lanka and India, we are having a long-term bilateral trading agreements, right? So we export things to India, or India will export things to us, right? We buy from them, they will again after bilateral trading agreements, and whatever the and that will lead to accumulation of accumulated credit surpluses in one or other country, right? Now, instead of paying India on based on what we have imported from India, right? We have the credit surpluses, right? Now, India wants certain things from, if you say Dubai, they want to import certain things from Dubai. Now, once they import things from Dubai, the India has to pay to Dubai for those imports what they initiated from Dubai. Right? So now India will tell us, instead of sending money to India to settle the long outstanding or long accumulated trade surpluses, right? They said from those trade surpluses, pay Dubai. Pay Dubai. Dubai will pay කරන්නේ for them to send goods to India. Right? මේක නිකන් triangle එකේ වගේ කොන්තුරක මේක operate වෙනවා. Switch or swap trading. Right? So when it comes to the common questions, what you will get is they will ask you why counter trade, and or what do you mean by counter trade, and sometimes they will ask you what are the 6 types of counter trade. The 6 types of counter trade, like tolling, switch or swap, counter purchase, barter, right? Very rarely they will ask you to explain 1 or 2, right? But normally they ask you what are the 6 types of counter trade methods. When the main question again belong additional risk faced by the exporters in counter trade. What are the additional risks faced by the exporters in counter trade? Right? Let's see. The cost of counter trade might exceed the exporters' expectations. The cost of counter trade might exceed the exporters' expectations. We just imagine the first question we talk about is underdeveloped African countries, right? When they export certain goods to developed countries, right? ඒගොල්ලෝ බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන එකට වඩා ගොඩක් ඒගොල්ලන්ට cost එක යනවා. Cost of counter trade is very much more because the developed countries will manipulate the whole exercise, right? The exporter might be pushed into agreeing to accept large quantities of unmarketable goods. The exporter might be pushed into agreeing to accept large quantities of unmarketable goods. Right? ඒ මනුස්සයලත් මේ වැඩක් නැති ඒව තමයි ගන්න වෙන්නේ unmarketable goods. Right? The importer's country might place an unrealistically high value on the goods they wish to counter trade. ඒකත් වෙනවා. මෙතන වෙන්නේ between the parties who are the more powerful guys. So the more powerful guys might place an unrealistically high value on the goods they wish to counter trade. අර මං කියන්නේ sugar ගේනවා කියලා sugar ගේනකොට අර එයාකට යවන්නේ මේ plant and machinery. Plant and machinery normally, if the price is, if you say $1,000 කියලා එක machinery එක price එක $1,000 කියලා මෙයා increase කරනවා $1,500 $1,500. ඉතින් අර මිනිස්සුට වැඩියෙන් මේ කරනවා high value ඒක නිකම් inflation එක inflated value එකක් දෙන්න. Since several parties are likely to be involved in a counter trade arrangement, it will increase the risk of cancellation of an export order due to one party failing to its contractual obligations. Right? That also can happen. Right. Any questions on counter trade? Or else I will go with the other one. Can you see this slide? The new slide, blue color. Can you see this? Hello, can somebody tell me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, fine. What is there on the heading Sri Lanka Export Trade Insurance Corporation? එකනේ තියෙන්නේ. Hello. Right. මම හිතන්නේ ඔයගොල්ලන්ට පේනවා ඇති.
Yes, sir.
Right, fine. The next අද මම කරන්න ඔක්කොම පොඩි sessions, right? Small sessions. Half an hour, 30 minutes, sorry, 40 minutes every day. පොඩි sessions යන්නේ. Right? හැබැයි areas ගොඩක් තියෙනවා අපිට cover කරගන්න. ඒ ටික complete cover කරගන්න ඕන. Sri Lanka Export Trade Insurance Corporation. In simple, we call it SLESIC. SLESIC. Right? SLESIC නිතරම exam එකට එන questions. ඉස්සර නම් 10 marks, 15 marks question එකක් ආවා. දැන් මේක බැහැලා 5 marks වලට විතරයි. But 5 marks is a big amount. 5 marks is a big amount. So don't miss these areas. Now, what is Sri Lanka Export Trade Insurance Corporation? For exporters, when we do exports, is it a must that we have to do the insurance? It's a must that we have to do the insurance. So the insurance policy ka gannawa na, why we are talking about SLESIC policies, Sri Lanka Export Trade Insurance Corporation. Why insurance corporation is giving insurance policies, marine insurance policies? Why we are talking about SLESIC policies? Right? Now, marine insurance, what is the difference between the marine insurance and the SLESIC policies? First, tell me, what do you mean by marine insurance policy? What do you mean by marine insurance policy? What does it covers? What does it covers? Marine insurance policy. Come on. Come on. Sons and daughters of Gulo. Backward. Right? We just try to make a conversation. Just try to make a conversation. So we will discuss. Right? What does this marine insurance policy covers? They cover the
Naval operations?
naval operations.
Yeah.
Yes, up to some extent. If you can elaborate on that. If you can elaborate on that, talk about not the naval, just talk about the goods and services. The goods.
Security of goods and durability.
Durability. Durability of what? Security of the goods.
Shipping goods.
Yeah, when you are shipping goods, when we are transferring on the goods will be transferred from one country to another, right? It's in a marine journey. In a marine journey, anything can happen. Anything can happen to the goods. The goods can be damaged, right? Jettison, volcano eruptions, anything can happen. So if any of these things happens, the value of the goods transported, the value of the goods transported is covered with the marine insurance policy. Right? But if the buyer doesn't pay the money, if you say under collection, if the buyer doesn't pay the money, then what is the situation of the seller, the exporter? He will be in a risk. He will be in a risk, right? Does the marine insurance policy covers that risk? By default? By default, does the marine insurance policy covers? By default, does the marine insurance policy cover? No. Those things are not covered by the marine insurance policy. Right? Marine insurance policy will cover only the goods. Only the goods. Nothing more than that. Right? But in most of the developed countries, they have this SLESIC, Export Credit Insurance Corporation. Export Credit Insurance Corporation. SLESIC Sri Lanka अनेक countries, developed countries, this is to support the exporters, right? But in 1977, there was a big change happened in Sri Lankan economy. That is, when Mr. Jayajawardena came into power in 1977, he introduced what? What does he introduce? Free economy. He introduced free economy, right? And he wanted the exporters to do more exports and bring money to Sri Lanka. Right? So then, when he introduced those things, he had a very able administrator working for him. Is none other than Mr. Lalit Atlamudli, who was later killed by terrorists. Mr. Atlamudli was the Minister of Trade. So he introduced these new developments to Sri Lanka. Right? So this Sri Lankan Export Credit Insurance Corporation was established in 1978, incorporated by Act of Parliament, Act number 15 of 1978. Right? The major activities of SLESIC is issue of pre-shipment credit guarantees. Right? Then another one is issue of post-shipment credit guarantees. Another activity is issue of export production credit guarantees. Then another one is issue of export performance guarantees, covering ATA Kane system. ATA Kane system. The Kane kinege T එක silent. Kane system. Issue of export payment insurance policies. Seller's risk. Export payment insurance policies. Right? Those are some of the major activities by the SLESIC. Issue of pre-shipment credit guarantees, issue of post-shipment credit guarantees, issue of export production trade guarantees, issue of ATA Kane system, and issue of export payment insurance policies. That is seller's risk. Right? Then seller's risk export credit insurance solutions provided by the SLESICs. Seller's risk export credit insurance solutions provided by the SLESIC. Insures the seller's credit term portfolio against non-payment by buyer. For a nominal premium, considering the overall liquidity position of the seller. Now, this is very important thing. Now, when a seller sends the goods, right, he has part with the goods. After that, he doesn't have any control over the goods, right? And if the buyer doesn't pay, he is going to lose the goods as well as the money, both. Because we have already sent the goods, right? හැබැයි අපිට පුළුවන් නම් nominal premium එකකට මේ risk එක cover කරගන්න. I think this is one of the very good things that can happen to a seller, exporter. Right? Again, very important thing is the risk of dealing with two unknown people. Right? Then ensures non-payment of specific shipments to specific buyers or countries. පළවෙනි එක wholesale අපි ඔක්කොම cover කරනවා. දෙවෙනි එක ensures non-payment of specific shipments to specific buyers or countries. If you are exporting tea, we don't have to worry about export of tea to all the countries. හැබැයි අපිට පොඩි issue එකක් තියෙනවා. If there's any risky countries like Syria, if you are sending the goods to Syria, these days, if you are sending tea to Myanmar, there are issues. Right? Only the shipments to Myanmar and Syria is covered with this specific guarantee. Right? Insures Sri Lankan exporters against non-payment of the shipment that are affected from a second country to a third country via Sri Lanka. That is Entrepot trade, which I discussed. Insures Sri Lankan exporters against non-payment of the shipments that are affected from a second country to a third country via Sri Lanka. Right? We talk about Entrepot trade. The Entrepot trade business is also covered under this paper. Insures non-payment for export of services such as software, construction, and telecom, etc. Insures non-payment for export of services such as software, construction, and telecom, etc. The risk covered under SLESIC guarantees are insolvency of the buyer. If the buyer is insolvent, then it is covered. Right? Right? Okay. Make a look with support tag when Then protracted default by the buyer. If the buyer is repeatedly delaying the payments, that will also covered under this SLESIC guarantee. Non-acceptance by the buyer. When we send the goods along with the goods, we send the when they send the goods and when we send the documents, sometimes the buyer may not accept the draft or accept the document. Right? I think ඒකත් මේකදී කව වෙනවා. Accept කළාට සල්ලි ගෙවන්නේ නැහැ. ඒකත් කව වෙනවා. Then occurrence of hostilities, wars, insurrections, civil or political disturbances, terrorist actions, natural disaster in the buyer's country. All those things will be covered. The make සමහර ඒවා cover වෙනවා marine insurance එකෙන්. But when non-acceptance by buyer, protracted default by the buyer, insolvency of the buyer, nothing will be covered under normal marine insurance. General moratorium declared by the government of the buyer's country. Right? General moratorium declared by the government of the buyer's country. Okay? දැන් බලන්න මේ අපි වගේ රටක තාපට ජෙනරල් මොනිටරින් එකක් දැම්මේ නැහැ. ඒත් සමහර restrictions අපේ වැඩි. අපිට එන සමහර ඒවා to import certain goods they said no way. You are not supposed to import those goods. Finish. Right? ඉතින් ඒ වගේ issue වලදී අපිට සල්ලි ගන්නත් බැරි වෙනවා. Changes in the laws of the buyer's country and of the import ban, then political events or economic difficulties arising in the buyer's country, which prevents delay in transfer of payment to Sri Lanka. Right? Risk not covered by the insurance, SESIC insurance. Is not covered by the SESIC insurance. Right? Can you just read it? I'll be back in 30 seconds. Okay. Risk not covered by the SESIC insurance. Earlier we discussed about the risk covered under SESIC. Now the risk not covered under SESIC. Right? Disputes between the exporter and the importer regarding the quality, quantity of packing, etc., unless the exporter obtain a court decree in his favor. We will cover everything mentioned there, but we don't cover the disputes between the buyer and the seller. Right? That is important. If there's a case like that, then the exporter has to go to courts and obtain a decree. Causes inherent in the nature of goods. Causes inherent in the nature of goods. That also not covered. What do you mean by this? Causes inherent in the nature of goods? දැන් ඔයගලන් පුතේ අහලා තියෙනවද මේ චූටි කතාවක් පොඩි කාලේ ඔයගල ඉගෙන ගත්ත කතාවක්. ඔව් මම දන්නවා කොහොම අහලා තියෙනවා. අර මතකද බූරුවෙක්ගේ පිටේ ලුණු ගෝනි පටවගෙන ගංගකින් යන්න ගිය වෙලෙන්දට වෙච්ච දේ. රයිට්? එහෙම අරගෙන යනකොට එකපාරක් ඔන්න වෙලෙන් බූරුවා පොඩ්ඩක් ගඟට පෙරළුණා. ඊට පස්සේ මිනිහා බූරුවා ගොඩට අරගෙන ඉරලා යනකොට බූරුවාට තේරුණා දැන් මගේ බර අඩුයි කියලා. උඩ තියෙන ඇඟවල තියෙන බර අඩුයි කියලා. මට ඒකට what was the reason? Salt was dissolved. නේද? salt එක අර වතුරේ වැටිච්චලා ටිකක් සෑහෙන dissolve. දැන් බර අඩුයි. ඊට පස්සේ හැමදාම ඊට පස්සේ බූරුවා ඒ ගඟ ක්‍රොස් කරද්දී ඌ ඕන කම්මින්ම ගිලෙනවා. ඌ දන්නවා බූරුවා වුණාත් ඌට මොලේ තියෙනවා ඌ ඕන කමින් ගිලෙනවා. ගිලෙලා බර අඩු කරගන්නවා. ඒ වගේ those are causes inherent in the nature of goods. Salt දිය වෙලා යනවා. right? ඒකනේ අපි කියන්නේ මොනවාද මේ on deck transportations වලට දෙන්නේ නැහැ salt එක on deck අරන් ගියොත් නැවෙල් උඩ තට්ටුවේ පටවගෙන ගියොත් මුද්‍රැල්ල වැදිලා මෙහාට ගේනකොට ඉතුරු වෙන්නේ මේ salt එන්නේ bags මේ ගනි bags වලනේ salt ගේන්නේ ගනි bags වල අන්තිමේදී මෙහෙන් බානකොට වෙන්නේ ගනි bags ටික විතරයි ඉතුරු වෙන්නේ මේ ටික ගෙවිලා මේ දිය වෙලා ගිහින් ඒවා කවර් වෙන්නේ නැහැ ස්ලේසික් වලින් another classic example is I think you all have this particular experience when you are small ones, right? When you are small ones, ඔගොල්ලෝ තුවාල වෙලා වැටලා තුවාල වුණාම අම්මලා ගන්නවා නේද හයිඩ්‍රජන් පෙරොක්සයිඩ් මතකද? ගෑවුවම අර පෙන දාලා ඉන්නේ. ටිකක් දානවා පොඩ්ඩක් පෙන දාලා ඔක්කොම ජර්ම්ස් ටික මැරෙනවා. hydrogen peroxide. Right? When you transport hydrogen peroxide, it has to be always covered from the direct sunlight. So, hydrogen peroxide අපි ගෙදර first aid box එකේ උනත් තියන්නේ brown color bottle එකක. normal transparent bottles වල තියන්නේ නැහැ hydrogen peroxide. That's the nature of this. Hydrogen peroxide කියන්නේ ඒකේ මේ chemical formula එක මොකක්ද දෙන්නේ H2O2 right hydrogen peroxide කියන්නේ H2O2 hydrogen and oxygen H2O2 ඒකට ඉරේලේ වැටුනහම මොකද වෙන්නේ මේක කැඩෙනවා right it breaks into H2O plus O2 H2O plus O2 H2O කියන්නේ water plus O2 කියන්නේ oxygen water and oxygen ටික නිකම්ම ඇරියා බොටල් එක ඇරියාම oxygen ටික එළියට යනවා hydrogen peroxide බෝතලෙ ඉතුරුලා තියෙන්නේ if it exposed to the direct sunlight only water H2O ඉතින් ඒ වගේ goods නම් මේකෙන්ද කව වෙන්නේ නැහැ අපි ඒවා කව වෙනවා නම් අපි කියන්න ඕන වෙනම මේ ඉරේලිය වැටෙන්නේ නැතුව on deck ගෙන්නෙත් නැතුව under deck ගෙන්න ඕන with specific containers අර කළු පාට කුරු containers වල දාලා අපි අරන් යන්න ඕන ඒක default of any agents of the exporter if the exporter is having certain agents then import එක රටේ ඉන්නවනේ agent කෙනෙක් ඒ agent ගේ default එකකට මේක කව වෙන්නේ නැහැ මේ කව වෙන්නේ importer default එකක් නැත්නම් agent ගේ ඩිෆෝල්ට්ස් වලට මේක කව වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒජන්ට් ඉම්පෝර්ටර් ගෙන් සල්ලි අරගෙන එක්ස්පෝර්ටර් ගෙවන්න නැතුව ප්ලේ අවුට් කරනවා නම් ඒවා කව වෙන්නේ නැහැ. Fluctuation in the exchange rates ඒකත් කව වෙන්නේ නැහැ. The benefit to the policy holder are a claim on receipt if payment are not made within a reasonable period. Right? A claim on receipt if payments are not made within a reasonable period. Right? Good collateral security as the policy gives easy access to post-shipment finance from banks. Right? Good collateral security as the policy gives easy access to post-shipment finance from banks. If the customer wants to get post-shipment finances from the banks, this will be a good security. If we have already taken a basic policy, that's a very good security. Because the non-payment or default will be covered. What else the bank wants, right? The ability to expand exports to existing market on more competitive trade terms. If we have that security or the cover, then we can go for looking for new markets exist, and we can expand the existing markets. We can go for more competitive markets with more competitive credit terms, right? Opportunity to diversify into new markets. Assessment of creditworthiness of the buyer. Assessment of creditworthiness of the buyer. Then advice on buyer's credit and payment terms. Advice on buyer's credit and payment terms. Whether make a specific policy issue කරන ඉස්සලා specific check කරලා බලනවා මේ ඔක්කොම. They check who are the buyers because they are going to give a guarantee, no? So they will not just give a guarantee without checking, right? Then assistance in collection of overdue payments. Assistance in collection of overdue payments protects overall liquidity. Protects overall liquidity. Now we will see the main differences between pre-shipment and post-shipment guarantee schemes. මේකත් ඉඳලා හිටලා මම දැකලා තියෙනවා questions ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවා. 10 marks එම questions එනවා. About 10 marks එම මේකට හම්බ වෙනවා. The main differences between pre-shipment and post-shipment guarantee schemes. Right? The pre-shipment trade guarantee amount guaranteed is 66 upon 2/3 of the guaranteed loss. Under pre-shipment trade guarantee, this is the amount we cover. 66 2/3. In other words, 2/3 samai of the guaranteed loss. Whereas post-shipment guarantee, trade guarantee, the amount guaranteed is 75% of the guaranteed loss. Make it 75%. Arage 66 and 2/3. Why post-shipment we are guaranteeing more? Why post-shipment we are guaranteeing more than pre-shipment? Just talk about, please. Hey, 75%. Make it. Hey, 66%. Ane lamai.
In order to mitigate risk of default payments?
Sorry, Pade?
In order to mitigate the risk of default payment?
Yeah, in both, we are in order to mitigate the default payment. Deke make now. Why pre-shipment we give 66 2/3? Right? In other words, total guaranteed loss එකෙන් අපි දෙන්නේ 2/3 තමයි දෙන්නේ. Whereas under post shipment we give 3/4, 3/4. Three-fourth දෙනවා අපි. වැඩියෙන් දෙනවා 75%. Hey, because the risk is less in post shipment guarantees. Risk is less because pre-shipment means before they do the export. Before they do the export, the entire thing is covered. So like risk එක වැඩි. මේ factory ගිනි ගන්නත් පුළුවන් නේ. ඒ වගේ දේවල් වෙන්නත් පුළුවන්. Right? දැන් මේකේ post shipment කියන්නේ they have completed the manufacturing part, they have shipped the goods, and now they need some financing before they receive the money. Before they receive the money, they might be receiving the money after 1 month or 2 months, but they want money before that, post shipment, but they have already shipped. The risk එක අඩුයි. ඒක අපි වැඩියෙන් දෙන්නේ. Then pre-shipment eligible for the advance granted by the bank for export pre-shipment against DC or confirmed export order. Normally pre-shipment guarantees, then risk guarantees only on confirmed order or on a DC, on a LC or a confirmed export order. Right? ඒකට තමයි අපි දෙන්නේ pre-shipment guarantee. Post-shipment eligible for purchase, negotiation or discount of export bills sent on collections basis or advance against such bills. Then post-shipment එකේදී eligible for purchase, negotiation or discount of export bills. Right? Okay. Pre-shipment trade guarantees, the exporter need not have an export payment insurance policy from SESI. The exporter need not have an export payment insurance policy from SESI. Right? Post shipment, the exporter must have an export payment insurance policy from SESI. Right? Then the premium payable is 15 cents per rupees 1,000 for LKR guarantees and 20 cents per US dollars 100 for US dollar guarantees. If it is rupee guarantees, our charges will be, premium will be 15 cents per 100. 15 cents per 100. You get a 0.15%. Then premium payable on post shipment guarantees is 7 cents per 100. Araka 15 cents, make it 7 cents. So how do you? Risk card premium right? 7 cents per 100 rupees or 7 cents per US dollar 100 for US dollar guarantees. Right? Any questions you have before I move on to the other slide? Any questions you have? All right. Main similarities between two schemes are as follows. The main similarities between the two schemes are as follows. Application for guarantees should be submitted to SLESIC by the bank proposing to grant the advance. SLESIC applications has to be provided or submitted to SLESIC by the respective banks. Right? Customer on behalf of the customer, it has to be submitted to SLESIC by the banks proposing to grant the advance. In submitting proposals for bank guarantees, all material facts shall be disclosed to SECI. Right? These bank guarantees are contracts of insurance, and therefore bank should observe utmost good faith at all times. Okay. Monthly declaration with the premium payable are based on highest balance outstanding during the month and should be submitted to SECI before 15th of the following month. Right? Monthly declaration with premium payable are based on the highest balance outstanding. මැදිදි පේමන්ට් කරලා බැලන්ස් එක අඩු කරලා නෙමෙයි අන්තිමට මාසෙ අඩුම මාසෙ highest balance එකට මාසෙ highest balance එකට යන්න ඕනේ. Advances should be made only after obtaining the guarantee from SECI. Right? Approval from SECI should be from SECI should be obtained for individual limits in respect of each exporter. That's very important. Now we have one of the exporters, they have 5 buyers. We have 5 buyers, right? එතකොට ස්ටෙසික් එකෙන් දෙන්නේ එක එක බයර්ගේ කොහොම ටෙස්ට් කරලා ඉවරලා තමයි ඒක දෙන්නේ. නැත්නම් මේ across the board ගානක් දාලා දෙන්නේ නැහැ. Right? So customer to customer, it can be changes. Right? It can be varied. Bank should take reasonable care. Bank should take a reasonable care when granting further advances in an overdue situation. Right? Any overdue payments should be promptly notified to SECI. Any overdue payments should be promptly notified to SECI. Renewal proposals should be submitted by banks if they wish to continue with the guarantee. Extensions to advances covered by the guarantee should have the prior approval of SECI. Should have the prior approval of the SECI. Any extensions to advances covered, right? Overdue advances should be reported to SECI within 30 days. That is, the banks has to do. The banks has to do. New advances should not be granted by the bank in respect of buyers who have already defaulted the exporter. Right? Okay. Claims should be lodged with SECI not later than 2 years of the date of default. And I don't have to explain to you. You can read it and then understand. If you have any issues, gray areas, please talk now. Please talk now. Right? The bank should take all necessary steps to prevent or minimize the loss involved. Any nursing program for defaulted advance should have the prior approval of SECI. If there's any defaults, then if you are having any in-house plans to recover the money, then all those things we have to discuss with SECI and we have to get their approval. Any amounts recovered should be shared between the bank and the SECI in the same proportion. Right? Any issues on SECI? Any issues on SLASIC? When was SLASIC established? When was SLASIC established?
1978.
1978, very good. And from 1978 to the, initially they were doing a good job. But then later we found there are also another insurance company. In insurance companies, it is very difficult to get any claims. You know that, right? Even if you met with an accident, ammo claim ganda giyama harima amount. They'll come out with all sort of disclaimer clauses. ඒවා දාලා මේක දෙන්නේ නැහැ මේක දෙන්නේ නැහැ කියලා වෙනවා. මේගොල්ලෝ ටිකක් ඒ වගේ කළා. මේගොල්ලෝ ටිකක් ඒ වගේ කළා. ඊට පස්සේ ටිකක් සවුත් වෙලා ගියා. People lost the faith on SLASIC, right? But now again they are picking up, right? Okay. Any questions? Okay. The next topic. Sri Lanka Export Development Board. Sri Lanka Export Development Board. මේකට කියන්නේ short name එක මොකද්ද? ඔයගොල්ලෝ දන්නවා?
EDB.
EDB. Very good. EDB. EDB. EDB කොහෙද තියෙන්නේ? බැංකර්ස් නම දැනගන්න ඕන. ඔය සාමාන්‍ය කස්ටමර් කෙනෙක් කියලා කවුන්ටර් එක උගලින්න කොට ඇහුවත් මිස් EDB කොහෙද මිස් තියෙන්නේ? EDB නේද? EDB නේද කීක අපි කරගන්න ඕන. Right? EDB is that's very good. Are you working in NDB?
I'm from HNB.
HNB. NDB building එකේම උඩටට. නවමාවත. Right? නවමාවත. They are also, this organization was also established by Sri Lankan Act, right? මේකත් පටන් ගත්තේ 1978. 1978. ඔක්කොම පටන් ගත්තේ when we introduced this free economy, right? Then services provided by EDB to Sri Lankan exporters, advisory services to exporters requiring guidance and information, right? මේ ටික quickly අන්නම් මොකද මම ගොඩාක් ඔයගලන්ට මේ explain කරන්න තරම් දෙයක් නැහැ. හැබැයි questions එනවා. Right? Then market promotions and development programs, exporters forums for exporters to air their grievances to obtain solutions, right? But EDB also now they are much better than earlier. I have certain bad experience also with them about 10 years back, but now they are doing very well. In fact, few years back I visited the EDB and to check about the other people who check about monitor the GSP plus facilities and all. I mean, all computerized. They are very supportive, right? And they promote the Sri Lankan market and development programs, right? And exporters forums for exporters to air their grievances and obtain solutions. Exporters forums for exporters to air their grievances. If they have any issues, they can discuss and then they'll give a solution, right? But only thing what I have seen practically, a lot of exporters won't gather and express their grievances. One thing is, we should have these type of forums in our native language. ඉංග්‍රීසියෙන්ම කතා කරන්න ගියාම තමයි මේ issues එන්නේ. All the exporters are not English speaking people, right? අපේ සරමැඳෙන පටිය පැදලා සරමැඳන කෝට් එක ගහන්න මුදලාල්ල කොච්චර ඉන්නවද සල්ලි. ඒ කාලේ හිටියේ මේ ඒ වගේ කට්ටිය. ඒ ගුණසම් තමයි වැඩ කරන්න පුළුවන්. දැන් ඉන්න හොරු වගේ නෙමෙයි. ඉතින් අපේ forums එහෙම තියෙනකොට we should have a bilingual situation, right? Conducting training programs, seminars for specific products, markets, right? The mega නම් ගොඩක් ඔය දෙනවා මේ 6 o'clock 6:30 විතර වගේ මේ රූපවාහිනී නිවුස් බලනකොට මම ගොඩක් දවස්වල දකිනවා EDB එකෙන් ගිහිල්ලා ඒ manufacturers ලා මේ ගෝවියෝ ඒගොල්ලෝ කියන EDB මහතුරු ඇවිල්ලා අපිට මෙහෙම advices දුන්නා අපිට මේ වගේ ගෙන්නවා අපිට programs තිබ්බා seminars තිබ්බා ඒලා කොහොමද මේවා වවන්නේ කොහොමද කියලා කිව්වා right ඔයගොල්ලෝ බලන්න TV එකේ වගේ programs යනවා right එතකොට few years back they introduced plastic carry boxes වගේ ඒවා to transport gherkin, tomatoes, වගේ මේ products මේ කාණ්ඩ අපේ මිනිස්සු ඕවා ගෝණි වල දාන්න අරන් යන්නේ නේද? ගෝණිය පටවගෙන තක්කලටි ගේන දැකලා තියෙනවද? දඹුල්ලේ ඉඳන් ලොරිය එනවා කොළඹ. තක්කලි පටවගෙන තක්කලේ ලොරියේ ගෝණි පටවලා. අර එන මේ ලොරිය වැඩ කරන මිනිස්සු දෙන්නේ උන්වර තක්කාලි ගෝණියටම හේතු වෙලා බුදි උඩටම දඹුල්ලේ ඉඳන් කොළඹට නිකන් එයක්ව බුදි ඉතින් යට තියෙන මොනවද තක්කාලි කොළඹට එනකොට වැඩි වෙන සැරිලා මාස්ට් වෙනවා wastage is more so that is why they introduce this plastic boxes ඒව ගානට පැක් කරගෙන ඒ විදිහට අහම නම් මේකේ wastage එක අඩුයි right? But I can remember when they introduced this one, the farmers of Dambulla, they protest against this because what they said was they have to buy these things and unnecessary cost for them, all those things. For them, they produce, they sell it, get the money, finish. Transaction is over, right? But transportation is a problem. I think එතකොට අර කෙලින්ම අර්මේනියාද ගෝණිය පිටින්ම අරකින් ගත්ත ගෝණිය පිටින්ම මෙයා කොළඹට ට්‍රාන්ස්පෝර්ට් කරනවා. නමුත් අර විදිහට දාලා එවනවා නම් වන් කොච්චර අපිට සේව් කරන්න පුළුවන්ද වේස්ටේජ්. right? මේවා ඒ කන්ටේනර්ස් ෆ්‍රී දුන්නත් පාඩු නෑ. ප්‍රොඩක්ට් එක දෙනවා. Conducting training programs on import-export procedures, right? Video documentaries on exportable products, matters, publication of periodicals, export news, business links, periodical news, online access to international database, right? People can have online access to international database. They can search for buyers, invert buyer missions from overseas market, conducting group sales missions, trade fairs, buyer-seller meets, and contact programs in overseas. I told you a few years back, even though these things were mentioned, it was not actively supported by EDB. Because I can remember for about more than 10 years I was working in overseas with HSBC Bank. Right? Those days, every year in January, Dubai is having their uh, global exhibition, global trade fair. Okay? For the global trade fair, there are so many Sri Lankans participating. We have a stall. So EDB brings people there, but guys, then gem cutters, right? Cake eva, badu, geno. Gambiri sitama geno. Gambiri saramya, okko, spices em, aragana de minuseno, trade fair. Trade fair in a country, avilla, what is the basic requirement, objective is to the government of Sri Lanka should take more active steps to support our exporters. Right? They have to organize certain meetings in Dubai, right? Not only in Dubai, even Shanghai Fair, Beijing Fair, the German වල අපි trade fairs තියෙනවා ඒවා කොහෙ ගියද අපි අර මිනිස්සුන්ව අරන් ගිහලා ඒගොල්ලන්ට අපේ මිනිස්සුන්ගේ කමියුනිකේෂන් බැරි එකක් තියෙනවා ඒකත් සපෝට් කරගෙන අර මිනිස්සුන්ගේ බිස්නස් එක අරන් දෙන්නවා රයිට් ඒක නෑ ඒ මෙහෙන් ගිය ගමන් අර කට්ටිය ඔක්කොම EDB staff එක missing they go on shopping these guys are just idling in Dubai town අර ගිය purpose එක වෙන්නේ නෑ දැන් කොහොමද දන්නේ ඒ කාලේ නම් මට මම හිතටම දැක්කේ නෑ right මේ මිනිස්සු නිකන් ගිහලා දාලා තියෙනවා facilitation for small producer exporter incomes market promotion and development programs right then assistance to resolve problems to exporters related to infrastructure and products right if they have any issues to resolve those problems integrated product market development programs for supply development product development production adoption and quality improvement on selected agricultural products right gherkin wage production අපිට හොඳට market කරන්න පුළුවන් products පුට්ලම් මැනා area එකේ හොඳට gherkin හරියනවා right ඒවා අපි අරගෙන ගන්න පුළුවන් we have to get the market for those guys the farmers will grow but they don't know the markets so it is up to this organization like EDB to support them right okay right that's also finished I'll try to finish this one also EDB any questions මේක නම් කෙලින්ම note එකෙන් යන්න පුළුවන් right right the next one is Ceylon Chamber of Commerce Ceylon Chamber of Commerce organization ඔයගලන්ගෙන් අහන්න පුළුවන් questions මේ වගේ what are the organizations that will support export promotions in Sri Lanka explain few you can get a question like explain few right then you have all three organization which we learned today you can talk about right we can talk about SRESIC we can talk about EDB now you can talk about Ceylon Chamber of Commerce right at least a very brief summary එකක් ලිව්වා නම් ඔය තුනේ you can get the full marks right unlike EDB which was started in 1979. This Sri Lankan Chamber of Commerce was established long time back during Suddha's period, the British rule. 1839. 1839. 1839 වල මොනවාද අපේ තිබුණ main export? Can somebody give me? Tell me. Class එකක තිබ්බනම් මම tag එකක් දෙනවා. Class එකේදී කිව්ව ළමයට. සාමාන්‍ය මගේ classes වල මම එන්නේ මොනවා හරි toffee ටිකක්වත් අරගෙන ළමයින්ට දෙන්නේ. Now we are not meeting. අහන questions වලට උත්තර දුන්නා නම් toffee එකක් දෙනවා. වෙන කරන්න දෙන්නේ නැහැ. bribe කරලා තමයි ගන්නන්න වෙන්නේ. Right? 1839 වල මොකද්ද අපේ main crop එක?
Cinnamon?
No. Good try, but no. 1839. 1839 කියන්නේ after Britishers took over the
Tea?
country. Huh?
Tea?
Tea. No,
Yeah.
not tea. Before tea?
Coffee?
Coffee. Coffee was the main crop, right? Coffee was the main crop, and entire production was exported to UK, right? So this is where all these British planters came into Sri Lanka after 1815. After 1815, and they started cultivating this new crop, coffee. Right? ඒක බලුවා හොඳ මේකක් තියෙනවා අපිට මේ coffee හොඳට වැවෙනවා. 1839, 35, 39 කියන්නේ it was a peak of coffee. And unfortunately, somewhere around 1842 විතර වෙනකොට there was a bacterial or viral attack on the coffee plantations. The entire coffee plantations, we had a big threat. Then only the Britishers introduced the new crop called tea. Coffee plantations මේ වුණාට පස්සේ තමයි James Taylor is the first cultivator of tea, first tea plantation එක තිබුණාගේ. ඒගොල්ලෝ තමයි ඉස්ලාම ඕක දැම්මේ. But this British government has established this Sri Lankan Chamber of Commerce just to support these British people, right? Then subsequently in 1895 the chamber was incorporated by then Legislative Council under the Sri Lankan Chamber of Commerce Ordinance number 10. මේවා අහන්නේ නැහැ කවදාකවත් ඔයගොල්ලෝ. It's only a history. The business services provided to exporters by Chamber of Commerce, this is very much similar to EDB, but these people are very keen on supporting the exporters on certain things which EDB is not doing, making representations on behalf of its members on business matters. මේගොල්ලන්ගේ මේ representations are powerful, right? They have their own meetings with the members, and if the members are having any issues, they do the representations. The issuance of certificate of origin and certifying other commercial documents to exporters. That is one of the key services they do. Issuance of certificate of origin, you know what it is. And certifying other commercial documents. That also be done by Sri Lankan Chamber of Commerce. It has a fully secured online system for the electronic issuance of certificate of origin. E-certificate of origin. E-code. E-certificate of origin. Right? They have this E-type, electronic issuance, right? Conduct of commodity auctions, tea, rubber, spices, gem, allied products. It can be conducted by Chamber of Commerce, right? Then commercial dispute resolution services to bring amicable solutions to trade disputes through arbitration, conciliation, and mediation services, right? Commercial dispute resolutions. Arbitration, conciliation, and mediation services. Organizing export exhibitions and export awards schemes. Every year they organize export exhibitions, BMICH and export award schemes. After the exhibition, coupling with the exhibition, the last day they have the export awards night, right? To promote the exporters. Issuing publications on trade. Export and investment promotions through inbound and outbound missions, right? Like EDB, they also encourage the inbound and outbound missions. Operating a computerized information service. Assistant visiting businessmen to make contacts in Sri Lanka, right? If any businessmen are visiting Sri Lanka to meet the exporters or the counterparties, if they contact, before they come, they normally contact the Chamber of Commerce, because Chamber of Commerce organizations, institutions are in all the countries in the world. All the countries in the world. Chamber of Commerce, right? Chamber of Commerce through the Chamber of Commerce, they contact our chamber. And then when they come to Sri Lanka, they go and meet the Chamber of Commerce guys, and they will arrange the meetings, right? Issuing business opportunities bulletins, issuing quality surveys for exports, right? They conduct this, or they issue the quality survey certificates, right, for exports. Issuing letters of introduction to members traveling abroad on business. If one of our members are traveling overseas looking for business mission, then they issue letters of introduction to those members. So when they go to those countries, they can go to the banks and produce those letters and open the accounts, and they request the banks also to support these people, right? Officially, introduction letters. Maintaining a computerized reference and lending library, exchanging information with chambers of commerce in other countries. Exchanging information with chambers of commerce in other countries. Very important, the last one. Right? Okay. These people are more powerful and they do a very good job. And even in the banking sector, they support our banking sector a lot. The Chamber of Commerce, they have banking committee. They have a banking committee, right? With all the bankers, almost all the bankers, commercial bankers operating in Sri Lanka. One time I was the representative for whatever the banks I have worked for many years. Even now I am participating in their discussions, seminars and all. Right? It's very interesting. And we discuss a lot of issues pertaining to the banks, right? Like customs, irregularities, the custom departments and all. We discuss those things, right? So more than the EDB, Chamber of Commerce is working very closely with the banks, and they are trying to promote the international trade, not and to have a dialogue and conversation. Right? Okay. Any questions? Any questions? We discussed about one matter, one service provided by Chamber of Commerce as well as EDB. Sorry, EDB කලේ මේක කරේ ස්ලේසික් වල එක සර්විස් එක ගැන කතා කරනවා. ඔයගොල්ලෝ දන්නවද ඒක කවුරුත් ඇහුවේ නැහැ. සර් what is it කියලා ඇහුවේ නැහැ. ඒකෙන්ද මම චර උනන්දුවක් ගත්තෙත් නැහැ. මතකද ATA කානේ? ATA කානේ. ATA කානේ කියලා අපි සිස්ටම් එක ගැන කතා කළා. ඔයගොල්ලෝ දන්නවද ඒක මොකක්ද කියලා ATA කානේ? මාෂා?
Hello, no sir.
No?
Don't know about it.
Yeah? Hello?
Hello?
Yes. Yes. Tell me.
No sir, don't know about it.
Well, you know about it?
No sir.
No. Right. Okay. ATA Kane is a guarantee. Right? ATA Kane exam mandaka evla diyena kiyapara. Right? ATA Kane kyane now I'll explain it with an example. Okay. We have gem exporters and or jewelry exporters. When they go for these exhibitions, okay, for example, German trade fair, China trade fair, Dubai trade fair, these people are taking with them very expensive gems and jewelry. Gems and jewelry can contain podi boxes. Podi box right? Podi box value is millions. You know that, right? So when you are taking the gems or jewelry out of Sri Lanka, there's a custom charges, custom duty which you have to pay, right? When you are taking gems or jewelry outside to out of Sri Lanka, and when you are bringing back the balance amount, then you have to pay a thumping import duty. ඒතර ඒ දෙක ගියාට පස්සේ අර මිනිස්සුන්ට මොකුත් නැහැ. Import duties ගියවට පස්සේ it's a double tax, import as well as exports, right? To avoid that, they have introduced ATA Kane guarantee system. Now when we issue ATA Kane guarantee, first they have to give, if it is gems, there are so various types of gems, blue sapphire, red, Romeo Kiki Tinone, right? Many Canadane, many Jati Gudati. Is there a hammer many Arang and a hammer many Galakman, one other type? What is the specification? 0.1, sorry, 2 millimeters, 5 millimeters, or millimeters gun, which are the crat gun, how many crat, right? All those details they have to mention on a schedule. And then they have to submit those schedules with the value, estimated value, and then SLESIC or Chamber of Commerce will issue ATA Khane guarantee. So when they have the ATA Khane guarantee, and now they are going to the trade fair, when they go to the customs, they have to submit the Khane guarantee to the customs. Then the custom people will open the boxes and then they will check one by one what are the items. What are the items? The overvaluation, overestimation, and put and gems and jewelry authority approval again. Regular balna harita. Then they'll allow you to take the goods out on one condition. Whatever the sales you did during those trade fairs, you have to remit those money immediately to Sri Lanka through banking channels. Right? In the inward remittance එක අපි මෙහාට එවනවා. ඒ proceeds වලට. ඒවලා ඒ receipts ඔක්කොම අපි ගාව තියෙන්න ඕන. ඒතර අපි අර ලංකාවට ගේනකොට අපි අරකින් අඩු කරන්න ඕන what are the things we sold and for what price, and the total price we have already remitted. You have to give the documentary evidence. Then when they come back to Sri Lanka, the customs will again check it and see whether it is balancing, reconciled manner. That's it. You don't have to pay a cent. No export duty or import duty. Just to support these people. Right? That is ATA Khane guarantee. All right. Any more questions? Fine. Then next week we'll meet again. Now tell me, I have only another 1 or 2 areas to discuss, but all those areas are very, very important. Another, I don't think Mr. Bernard has done with you. Another area always coming with these questions, right? එකක් තමයි harmonized system. Harmonized system. Have you done this earlier? HS codes, right? Then GSP and GSP plus. පොඩි කැලි තිය දැන් ඉතුරුලා තියෙන අපිට කැලි ටික. හැබැයි කැලි හැම එකකින්ම exact go through the past papers. මේ දැන් වැඩ කරන හැම එකක්ම ලකුණු 10ක් නම් උගන්ට ගන්න පුළුවන්. කැලි එනවා. ඊට පස්සේ harmonized code දාන I don't know whether you people have done Article 39. Can somebody tell me? Assignment of proceeds. Assignment of proceeds. Have they done? Have you done? අරත් එක ලියා ගන්න ඕන දැන් මේ උගන්ට දෙක මම කතා කරලා IT English class to do HS codes. What am I talking? Article 39. Then assignment of proceeds. Then Reka Mankua. Matanade GSP. GSP plus. Right? Next week වැඩ කරන්න පුළුවන්. Next week වැඩ කළාට පස්සේ I will give you IBS එකෙන් අද අප්ලෝඩ් කරලා ඇති travel to other countries, right? What are the support the bank can give you, right? Ek podak kiyawanda manga ek upload karega I don't want to waste my time on discussing that. I think you all can clearly understand. Once you read it, you can understand. If you have any issues on that, please come back to me, right? Please come back to me. I don't want to spend time on discussing that one. One issues තියනවා විතරක් මට ඇවිල්ලා කියන්න. right මේ තුන කරලා ඊළඟට පස්සේ මගේ plan එක ඔයගොල්ලොත් එක්ක අපි කරමු. මම දෙන්නම් past papers තුනක් හතරක් විතර වගේ. We'll start discussing the past papers and doing the forex and facility sums, right? මේව කරන්න නම් ඔයගොල්ලෝ ඉන්න ඕන ක්ලාස් එකේ කමියුනිකේට් කරන්න ඕන. එතකොට තමයි අපිට වැඩ කරන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ, right? ඔයගොල්ලෝ කමියුනිකේට් කරන්න ඕන. කමියුනිකේට් කරන්න නැතුව නම් අද උනත් තමයි 4 දෙනා ඉන්නේ. කොහොමද පාස් වෙන්නේ කියන එක මම දන්නේ නැහැ. මේ ට්‍රැවලින් එහෙම කියලා බලලා මොනවා ඉෂුස් තියෙනවා නම් විතරක් මට. Okay, then see you